accessing your Akashic records. It is within your birthright to access your Akashic records. The reason why is very challenging for many people, or most people, to not have the ability to access their own Akashic records. There are many variants and reasons. I will attempt to note or highlight the most important ones, and quite often, if you're able to reflect on that, and if you still continue to want to access your own Akashic records, then you will be led to, because when it's your time and when you're on alignment to, it becomes a natural process. By the way, this is definitely not an instruction for you to access the Akashic records, because I don't have the necessary alignment to invoke that lesson on you. Maybe someday, if spirit aligns with in my highest good, to do so. As of right now, I'm not on that spectrum. There are other things I'm working with. However, these highlights are very important as I access my own Akashic records, and I do offer services in helping others align to access their own Akashic records from low frequency to mid frequency and high frequency. And this is the intention of this message. I want to explain these different frequencies. They say in Chinese medicine, the ministerial fire, the same fire that drives your willpower, the power that enhances your will. Once you place will, you still need to power it. So that's called your ministerial fire, they say, and it's governed by your kidney essence or your jing. And in Qigong practices, you work on cultivating that jing, and just like charging up your battery, you start charging it and expanding it and saving it, that cultivation and culmination, into your lower elixir, one of your 3 elixirs in Chinese medicine, which is your lower dantian, which is where the focal point is when they start teaching you how to meditate as well, especially if you're in the Taoist or Buddhist way of breathing, such as Buddhist meditation or Taoist meditation, reverse Taoist meditation, and one's ability to enhance their fire, and then understand the contraindications that once you start learning to build up your willpower and exercise it outside of you, as in like sparring, but now with the things that you're wanting to align yourself to, I guess they would say in modern terms, as in manifesting something. But if you understand manifesting and you're working on it, and sometimes it doesn't work, or after you manifest something you feel exhausted, maybe you weren't conscious or aware of, there's always going to be an exchange program here with the universe when you're looking to manifest something and you're not properly aligned in spirit. It's not good or bad, it's just how energy works. If you give output, there's always going to be an input to fill in the gap and somehow, and fill in the space of energy, right? And there are frequencies and levels to this. So it's important that you actually learn those levels. So that's why it's important for you to work that one job that exhausted the daylights out of you. Then you learn maybe humility, you learn what it was like to earn money and not save it. And you learned what it was like to live within that deprived state, right? Scarcity mindset. So once you master scarcity mindset, then the next level is abundance mindset. Now there's people who've never worked on scarcity mindset. Again, the collective, I'm saying on average. And they work on an abundance mindset, and something always seems to be missing. You know, maybe they were born into wealth, or always, you know, dad, mom gave them that car, and they had powerful willpower, don't get me wrong, and they did all the work themselves to get everything that aligned themselves to. But there's always seems to be something that's missing. And that something oftentimes is because there's almost like that false narrative or that false positive that we came here in this reality to master, because there's something about the exchange between the contrast of your desires, such as scarcity mindset and abundance. So now the celebration of the abundance once you achieve it, because you were the first one in your family to not be poor, or you're the first one in your family to go to college. Your degree probably didn't even get you the money that you planned for. Probably never even used that degree. You know, that's more than common, you know this. Yet you're just like walking with this fire. There's something about you that feels like, because you're the pilgrim, right? Maybe you're a traveler. Maybe you're the first one in your family to leave your country and come to the United States, which happens. And you're the first one to do that. And to an alchemist, that's wealth. Once you understand how to tap into that wealth and abundance. Now, this ties in and taps into me speaking about the Akashic records and ascertaining, because if you're able to work with me in symphony and hear what I'm saying and it's vibing with you, then when you tap into the Akashic records, either for yourself or with someone like me, let's say you're tapping into wanting me to work with you and opening up the doors to accessing your own Akashic records, then you start understanding the finer, higher frequency tunes of questions that you will or may want to align to in asking. That's now the higher resonance of your existence, right? And then there's other people who just want to kind of solve the lower stuff, like why am I jealous, or who is this person doing, what is this person doing behind my back, and I want to know. Yeah, I want to know who's actually holding me from my joy, you know, which is hexing me. These are real legitimate questions, right? I would never take away from that. But once you start understanding that those questions, if you're constantly asking them after your first or second or third Akashic record reading, 3 months down, 6 months down, you're asking the same questions over and over, that becomes a time for you to kind of like, well, remind yourself to look at this video again, but to reassess yourself, because you're finding out that, as in this example, that you're probably looping that negative feedback loop of the things that you're attracting within your contrast. Most people are not aware of their dark nature. So this is what I'm getting at. And most people who were given everything in their life have never tapped into their dark nature, and they're like all love and light, and they are, right? You believe them when you see them. You're gonna feel their energy. They're like bees buzzing, and you're like seeing this cute girl or this cute guy, whatever you're into, whoever you're into. And it's like they're like changing like your environment when you're walking past that person, right? But then you feel like there's something off with them, like anybody could filter their reality, let's say, as an example. And that's okay. Maybe that person's here to kind of like counterbalance our dark nature. There's nothing wrong with that. But this message is intended for those that want to balance out their dark nature and their light nature, their yin to their yang. And those are the people that I relate with when I'm working with the, let's say, Akashic record readings, because those are people who are graduating in learning how to self-alchemize within your inner school of self. Your inner school of self, the yin and yang. No longer becoming just yin or yang, right? But being the one that works with that orb of mystery school, or that oracle of information from your lifespan, not limited to. And now looking at like this crystal ball, the yin to the yang, the light and the dark, you're able to now, as I said, into your lower elixirs, work with the upper higher registries, or the higher elixirs of your existence, such as the your middle dantian, your middle elixir, and then you have your higher elixir, right? And if you're into the studies of alchemy, right, with the education that's being offered in this time and age, then you can understand and start to integrate the knowledge of the Vedic system of the 7 chakras, which was never separated in Chinese medicine. It's just that in Chinese medicine, it was never spoken about. It was called, they were considered either forbidden or contraindications, right? And it was only meant for that one curious soul to actually go into the dark side of Qigong, or esoteric Qigong. They went against their teacher. And the teacher may or may not have been conscious about this. And we're talking about like from a historical perspective, and evolution and humanity and relationship with the paradigm of Qigong as it relates to, let's say, the Vedic system, right? The student went and took a dark path because of that teacher. Now you have a separation from the truth of this particular school of Qigong, right? That lineage that was always held in some form of righteousness, and rightfully so, to protect the information that was encapsulated and preserved by the Sifu, by the Sima, by the teacher, by the sensei. Now that one student kind of like got shunned. So I guess now, yeah, I mean, if you look at it from a logical perspective, I rarely use my logic. That's not true. It kind of is. But anyway, from a rational, logical thinking perspective. Oh, I'm getting itchy. It's irking me. I'm allergic to logic. No, all right. From a logical perspective, from a rational perspective, from an objective perspective. Because we are in the age of Aquarius, now everything's being kind of like spelled out for you. Because we need to evolve and it was like less than 0.123% of the populace that was able to break the code. And that breaking of the code actually was the person who was diligent, disciplined, and ready to go into the dark nature of what they were told. And that there are not that many people that are built to do that by nature without someone else spelling it out for them, right? So now you're seeing from the Vedic system in the Qigong world, or even me speaking as an example, we're spelling it all out for you. And it's not making it easier, actually, it's making it more complex for you. But that 0.0123% maybe might expand to 0.1, hopefully, eventually soon. That's like nobody. But again, faith of the mustard seed is what actually changes this reality and expands us into unity consciousness. That's all that's required. Is enough of us to conjugate energetically. We don't have to ever meet each other, but these conversations start to now cross-impute or compute, so that now we have we're no longer living in faith. Now we're hearing it. Now we're hearing the testimonies from people all around the world. So now that litmus test that was limited to your demographics, to where you were growing up in, or me, because there was no social media and ability to speak with other people that were like-minded, we were led to just being able to see and know. Now you're meeting other people with different pieces of their blueprint experience, but it's like we're singing the same tune. So now it's like, wow, I knew this. Now it's expanding, and that expansiveness, it's what's taking the sacred geometrical sequence of that of a mustard seed, and now kind of like re-encoding the permission required for the Fibonacci sequence to take a reverse polarity, and which is in synchronicity with the Mother Earth, kind of like changing polarities from south to north, north to south. And it's really not just 1 to 2. It's actually something that's actually synergistically in nature with our evolution the same. It's not a coincidence. So again, it's because of those truth seekers that are never in social media from the, I don't know, from the 1900s, 1800s, all the way up to today, as an example. Now it's coming into fruition. So those who are now speaking, such as myself, it's because of all those powerful as divine masters, right? Male and female alike. Now they're giving us permission to speak. It's time now. But yet now with all this information, it's becoming more complex for someone like you who's on the other side. And which is why I'm trying to paint a better kind of like picture that will help someone within their transitioning, right? It doesn't have to be with me. Obviously, there's 8 billion people, but again, within our individuality, there's going to be people who we naturally attract. And someone like me, it's more important to attract and to pay attention onto the divine feminine, the frequency of receiving, less the numbers of people, but paying attention, because there's a inverted kung fu dance that I'm working with, just like as if I'm working with qigong forms or and kung fu forms. If you're into the martial arts, if you're a dancer, you understand what I'm saying. You work with certain sets and sets that are related to people who you looked up to because they relate with you somehow, and now you're starting to take the imprint of their divine purpose because you were attracted to them, like Michael Jackson, somebody, I don't know, somebody who played Prince. He played music and he sang, and I may not want to sound like Prince, but the discipline, and there might be something within the discipline and how he created his music, which is what attracts me or attracted me. Bob Marley, the same. Now here I am with Bob Marley and Prince, 2 different human beings, right? 2 different genres of music. And yet now Marcus is like starting to play a different tune. And now in my astral realm, or in my Akashic record readings, we're going to find out that we were all part of that same tribe spectrum of frequency, that we were all family, right? Which actually we are. And at least in the 3 to the 4D, Prince and Bob Marley has spoken to me or speaks to me when it comes to my evolution, because we are cross-referencing each other. They're no longer here on this earth, but their ascension process is still not separate from us. And then everybody's gonna like Prince or Bob Marley music, right? So again, it's fine-tuning our rainbow colors. Let's say 7 colors of the rainbow, and we require all 7 colors so that we can actually see the spectrum of that portal of that represents love, unity, consciousness, no longer being separate, right? And you understand the sacred geometry of a rainbow, and that is our body. That's why we have the 7 colors of the rainbow in our body. If you get away now from the rational thinking mind, then you have to understand what invokes somebody being illuminated with their presence. They may or may not be conscious. That's why there are rainbow children being born here, right? And just like the dog barking, they're going to irk people just by their presence. They're going to be annoyed. They're going to be annoyed around with their presence, because rainbow children, they're not going to be walking like they're love and light, but they're going to be walking with that blueprint. Again, if I start singing Bob Marley, or let's say Prince, and you didn't resonate with that, you may not like it. You might tell me, be quiet. And let's say I had a great voice, right? Yet his music was kind of like spot on with a lot of things. Again, if you resonate with that within your DNA blueprint, not that you should, right? So again, rainbow children are here with their presence to change the blueprint harmonics. And then there's other people such as myself who's considered, I guess, in like astrological world, in the astrological world, as blueprinters. We're here not to blueprint. Well, I'm speaking about myself. I'm here to help with the expansion process and the transitioning within the DNA imprint of blueprinting our new reality as people are becoming more aware. And at the same time, I'm helping to protect. I know many of you are going to understand what I'm talking about. I'm here to protect forgotten timelines. That's why I was born in North Philly and was raised in Patterson. You know, if you know those neighborhoods, they're not great. And I'm always led to go into places that are pretty dangerous. Again, for those of you who are following me, know that I had to come from a prior, or not prior, but kind of like more recent timelines where I was a warrior, where I fought demons per se, and I got killed by them. And here I am today. I was possessed by them, and here I am today, right? I killed them, and here I am today. So once you understand the illusion of that reality that I lived, right, I started to graduate beyond the fear realm. And in Chinese medicine, fear, right, starts opening up from the water element, using the 5-element theory, is metal, water, wood, fire, earth. So water is the mother of wood. Once you start understanding the engendering process of water and start expanding, and you start to graduate beyond the illusion of death and dying, that yes, you physically die, but then once you start to remember in new lifelines at younger and younger ages, and you remember sooner, then all of the ascended master and the descended mastery of all of these timelines that you live starts to come sooner, and you have more physical time in your form body. And this is what's happening to me. That's why my life was going through such rapid change, right? That should have taken me out, right? So because of that, now I have the ability to go into places that I'm being led to. I'm not going to mention it in public where, not right now, because it's not necessary, honestly, to be honest. But there are places that I will go where most people will not go, because there are people just like us in those places that don't have Wi-Fi. It might be like really rural. It might be like forgotten, right? It might be really dangerous. It might be, there might be a lot of witches and warlocks there, right? And, or a lot of gangbangers over there. And it's not that I want to go there. It's that when I'm being led to go there, sometimes physically or astrally, it's because there are things that need to start to expand, right? Because in those dark realms is where actually Mother Earth is actually a lot of the power from what was protected. A lot of hidden portals that are deep inside, embedded into the rock formation of this earth. I'm not going to go into that. It's actually in those darkest areas, right? Because of the technology from Atlantis and other extraterrestrial technologies, the same, that have been formed here, and they're hidden down there. And now they're being turned on again naturally by a certain vibration because of our evolution, and because the same of the expansion of Mother Earth awakening in such a matter that we can't think of religion when we're having that conversation, because then you're going to say, what do you mean Mother Earth is awakening? And religious people are going to say, you just need Jesus in your life. And just put those people aside, let them evolve in their own time. You know what I mean? We're just like, can't do that, because they're actually uprooting now, because they're actually still mimicking like puppets, like clowns. And it's part of their evolution, because you're going to meet a lot of people like me, like you, that are in that while they get awakened, they needed to be the last generation for that walk, that crusader's walk, right? The enslaving or being enslaved mentality, that submissive mentality, right? That was embedded into us so deeply, so somebody has to mimic it for us. So that spiritual rage in us has to be invoked. Going back to the beginning of the video, so those of us that got invoked at a young age with spiritual rage because of your family, because of religion, because of politics, because of belief systems, whatever you want to call it, that rage, if you actually went through that rites of passage, then coming out of that, as long as you didn't do enough destruction that led you to go to jail for so long, or maybe gotten killed and you got to come back again or work in a different reality, that was the rites of passage, that you needed to fail miserably. You needed to get shunned, right? You needed to go through a humiliation process. You needed to go through narcissism. You needed to go through whatever it is that meant loyalty. It would be very difficult or almost impossible to shake and rattle me And that's why we needed to become kind of like attacked by the people who we love the most, the ones that we thought or think that would never do us wrong. They needed to follow through on that. We asked them to do that in another reality. Then here we're like saying, why would we want to do that? And that is becoming now the conflict that you have in your life. Why would I do that to myself? I didn't ask for that person to do that to me, or vice versa. And then you start comparing and whatever. And once you could break that, then you start naturally breaking that mimicking program, because the mimicking program has no choice, because it's tethered to all of us, has no choice but to be re-encoded from your experiences. And now enough of us are awakening to it, and that technology has no choice now to start to dissolve naturally, because we're the ones that feed it. We fed the loyalty process, we fed the cute little dog, we fed all of the things that we hate. We fed it. We created a system that meant well, that served us. What we forgot was to collapse it when it was time. So when we don't do it voluntarily, which is part of the training, listen up, it becomes involuntary from the universe. It starts to happen, and it starts looking dark. It starts looking like hexes and curses. And again, hexes and curses and dark sources will actually get on that gravy train and try and amplify it. So naturally it happens, but then it gets worse because now you're not paying attention to how you're feeling. Exactly like the dog right now. And you start crying for help, and that being sad or afraid or needing your soul family, but in your darkest way. And somebody like you, unlike most people, didn't get the help when you needed it the most. They knew that. They needed you to kind of like commit suicide, would have felt like 10,000 lives. And what you didn't know is that you probably would have ended up your life, if this resonates with you, you would have ended your life. But you were at 9,999. And that's why you kind of like remember, you're like, why am I going to kill myself again? And something happened. You started to invoke your Akashic record through the lowest frequency field. That's what happened. You may not remember consciously of the story behind it. This is why I'm here, because then we can help to bring it together so that you could come with some kind of terms of peace and completion. But you started to remember, I've committed suicide so many damn times. I've gotten killed so many damn times. I was the narcissist so many damn times. And that's when you start relinquishing judgment. Because maybe it wasn't 100% factual for what I said with you, but the imprint is still part of you. You may not have experienced it like that. Maybe you weren't a narcissist. Maybe you weren't one to kill others. And you came in here purely from Ra, from the sun energy, and you came straight from source. But when you were born into here, coming through the 7 chakras of the earth of creation, I forgot the term, I can't think of the term right now. You were imprinted many realities that were encoded, because these were the codes that were necessary to start being decoded. So you needed to walk with it. And the hard part is to awaken to your own process and to the reason why you're birthed here. So again, after having had heard all this, you would now, let's say, wow, you know, I was about to like make an appointment with Marcus for an Akashic record readings as to like who's trying to screw me over. And now I have those questions still, but now they're upgraded, because now I want to know what my purpose is here on this earth. And I want to know what that number, you just said a number that kind of resonated with me, you know, 10,000 or 9,999. I've been getting those numbers like 999 all the time, and you just spoke to me. It's because it's so much more deeper and more profound than the story, but the story has codes encrypted that leads us to each other. You feel what I'm saying? So the way I'm speaking, which is my imprint, is the way you're going to attract more like-minded people, because maybe you want to speak this way, or maybe you do and you don't know how to. It's because you're still graduating beyond the programming of the sick patriarchy, the sick masculine. I don't mean gender. And at the same time I do, because it was sick men, right? Testosterone-driven men, meaning that they had a lot of strength where they couldn't be, at the time, be overturned by powerful women in those days, right? And the thing is, women wouldn't by nature want to do that, because they kind of like understand subconsciously the truth that we keep killing our men that are all screwed up and sick, but it's still killing a version of ourselves, of our creation. Yes, women, you are the most powerful beings that you know, and men knew that, and that's why all of these religions and all of these belief systems, and one of the original curses from, let's say, Babylon or Mesopotamia as an example, or like a reset of those curses that came from older times, such as the battle or the conflict in Atlantis, not limited to. right? And a lot of people don't even know about the conflict between Lemuria and Atlantis, how they were deemed to be like they were probably not separate at some point, but there became a separation from that. So that's another different story. And again, it's up to the eye of the person who has experienced those times, because there's many experiences here. So women are being remembered through the drama of being the one that's causing harm on others, or the ones receiving it. It doesn't matter. It's two ends of the same stick. Going back to the beginning is that once you understand your microcosm of your existence, whether it's through a Qigong perspective and you're understanding your 3 elixirs or your 3 dantians, and or your 7 chakra system, you are the one that holds the blueprint of the walk in this life, whether it's physical and being led to the ley lines, or to the the cartography of where you're supposed to be living in your life, so that you can maximize your abundance of wealth, whatever that means to you, to aligning yourself with the right relationships with business or love interests. It doesn't matter. It's whatever it is for you. But most importantly, all of that should always be aligned with your reason as to your ascension process back to source, even if you're in the descending process. Now this time aware, because you're descending to work with now the shadows. And I don't know what most people are saying about shadow work. They turned it into another logo, but like the shadows that you walk with, that you continue to do so. Now those entities that are that only know how to work with those shadows, you're actually the one re-encoding. This is Christ conscious now, Christ conscious collective now programming. You're starting to understand the contrast nature of Christ conscious. You know, it's not meant for you to be believed. You can't be afraid of getting your head chopped off. That's why my throat chakra was so it was so difficult for me to speak about these things, because it was like as if I was going against religion and conditioning and blasphemy. But again, you have to go into the dark nature of what blasphemy is, so that you can start tapping into sleepy DNA codes that you walk with. You have the keys. And then once you become more conscious to it, then the teachers will arrive, because when the student is ready, the teacher arrives. But it goes both ways. When the teacher is ready, the student appears. And you can say it either way. It's the same. Whatever you're searching for, whoever you're searching for, is also searching for you. So if you haven't found Christ and you're looking for Jesus, you have to, and you're still in that, right? You have to go into a historical analysis that you've been looking for Jesus for 2,000 years, and he came already with all of these other beings that said that we already took you to the promised land. Why are you going to go to another promised land in this 3D perspective with your form body experience? Why are you here incarnating 2,000 years later? You came here because it already happened. You came here to go to a school to experience that again, but you're falling into that mask and you're trying to repeat that. So if you're trying to get saved, if you're trying to live and die into your religion, it's going to keep following non-stop. All right, so billions of people will not follow that, whether it's the truth or not. They won't, because the whole point is to follow your true nature as to why you were born here. That's inversion. This is why you tap into the Akashic records, and this is why maybe you can't access your own Akashic records, which is the purpose of this talk. It's because maybe perhaps you are, it just doesn't seem like you are, because it doesn't sound commercial, like tarot card readings. You know, or maybe you didn't make a session with me, right? As an example. But maybe you are the walking Akasha. You are heaven experiencing humanity. What you're searching for, Akashic record reading, is also searching for you. It's you. It's a reflection. You are the record keeper. Humanity is a process. You were never supposed to be set in stone. You love something so much, you let it complete, don't you? For those that are mothers or fathers or people who raise children, you want them to become themselves. Well, in the freeing self, there's a lot of sick parents here. And it's not limited to love interest. It's not limited to anything. It's not limited to religion. It's not limited to the way we arrive towards wealth. And it's not limited to anything that has been tethering us to the mask of being a false human. Now, once you graduate past the judgment calls of judging yourself and of others the same, then again, it should not be a coincidence that these videos start to pop up more on your feed and you start meeting people like me, because we can't find you if you don't find yourself. But the same goes in reverse. So, peace and love. Happy for us to connect once again. Hey, book. Akashic. Akasha. In case you need to go deeper.